Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about one of the easiest ways to start investing. You don't have to start with the stock market. You can start with a high yield savings, a money market, or a CD. And this is what I would call my hands-off investor. And I wanted to talk about that today. This is one of the most low-risk ways that you can take your savings and get a little interest from it. And it's one of my 8 different styles of investing. If you haven't seen my investing quiz and which type of style investor you are, in the description I have a link to that quiz. It's free, no email, no sign up or anything. You just click the link and click file, make a copy, and then you'll have that workbook for yourself to be able to take the quiz and find out which investor you are. But today we're going to be talking about the hands-off investor. Hey there, my name's James and I'm a licensed chemical engineer who enjoys investing in the stock market. My journey into the stock market began with when my company offered a 401k, where my engineering and analytical background really helped me excel at understanding a lot of the key points of the stock market. But my goal with this YouTube channel is to help you become a more responsible self-investor. So let's get into it. So if you haven't seen this yet, this is my investing style free quiz. You answer these 15 questions, and based on the answer to your question, it will determine what type of investor you are. All the way from the low risk, maybe not as much understanding of the stock market, all the way to the top right here where there's higher risk but also higher education with also a potentially higher return. But today we're going to be talking about the hands-off investor and doing a little more of a deep dive into the hands-off investor. What type of investments do they look at? They're going to look at a high yield savings or either a money market or a certificate of deposit. Now, there's an article out there by bankrate.com, and I'll be referencing some of the key things in this article, but I'll link that article down there in the description in case you wanted to read it yourself. But it has a really good definition of these 3 different type of investments. And I would say these are investments because you're actually getting a return. So high yield savings, it's different from a regular savings to where they're going to offer a higher yield, but these are more online banks. Like I walked into my bank specifically and I asked for a high yield savings and they acted like I didn't know what I was talking about. And they pointed me toward a money market account or a certificate of deposit. So if you ask for a high yield savings at your physical branch where you do your personal banking at, they might not have a high yield savings. This might be more for the online market. But anywhere from, I've seen savings account all the way down to a 0.01%, which is basically nothing, pennies on the dollar, all the way up to maybe about a 3%, and then even touching into the 4 and 5%. Money market accounts, I've seen them anywhere from 1 to 5%. However, they require a high minimum balance, even sometimes to the amount of about $25,000 in my personal experience. But they are set up like a checking account. And then CDs or certificate of deposits, they're generally more a higher yield. They're going to be offering even up to 5% here in June of 2024. They're sitting around 5 to some of them even 6%. I've seen 5.25, 5.5. My current bank is offering a 4.8, and so I actually took advantage of that for about 6 months. They do have the highest fixed rate. They do have lower minimum balances, even down to $500. I've seen them in some places. However, your money is locked for a term. Now, this is actually a very widely maybe misunderstood. I talked to my banking representative and I said, hey, what if I did need to take my money out? He said, well, you can take it out, but there's going to be a penalty. And after doing a little bit of back of the napkin math, I found that any of the money that I would have received in interest, if I pulled it out early, I would have basically lost almost all of it and more so. And I actually would have been in the red for a total if I were to pull my CD out early. So just something to consider if you're going for more of a long-term CD, like a 2 or a 3-year CD, just so you don't have to re-up the CD every time. Now that is the case, every time your CD finishes its term limits, you have to go back into the branch and then re-sign up and re-sign paperwork for a new one. I actually just had to recently do this. And I use the hands-off investor style for my personal emergency fund savings. The rest of my money that I have extra outside my paycheck, I gravitate toward the growth investor because of my long-term investing horizon. I'm looking at the next 20 to 30 years to be able to let my money grow in the stock market. And then just a little example here and a little write-up. I won't read the entire thing here in this video, but just an example. If I were to invest $10,000 as a hands-off investor, and let's say I were able to get 4.72% in a yield, whether it be a money market or a CD, the yield would end up being $472 for a year. Now remember, if it's a term limit, if the money market, if you pull it out after 8 months or pull this out after 6 months, they would still advertise a 4.72 annual yield, but just remember that you're not going to get the full yield if you pull it out before a year. So then your final balance would be $10,472 after a year. A lot better than your typical savings account at 0.01%. Here is the bank rate article that I was referencing. I'll put a link in the description in case you wanted to read it yourself. It only takes about 8 minutes to read. I really liked this part of the article where it broke down a difference between a checking, savings, money market, and a CD, but the entire article is good, where it even goes into just explaining the pros and cons of each of the 3 different investments, and then it compares one versus the other. So that's basically a hands-off investor, in my opinion. They're either going to invest in a high yield savings, money market, or a CD. And if you're interested in the next style of investor, the income investor, subscribe to the channel and check out that video. I'll leave a link in the description, or you can find it on my channel. If you are interested in becoming a better self-investor over on Patreon, I do offer it for a small fee. I have a investing workbook that I put together, and one of my favorite workbooks I put together is you can build out your own portfolio. I get a lot of questions in the comments about, well, what if I were to hold at, say, 50% one stock and 50% another? Well, I built a spreadsheet that allows you to do that, and then you can choose the 1, 5, or 10-year cumulative annual growth rate, and that'll give you an output of, if you invested dividends or you didn't reinvest dividends, how much you would have in the next 25 years. So if you're interested in becoming a better self-investor, check that out. The link is in the description. You can find a link to that workbook once you become a member over on Patreon. Click the join button and sign up. And with that, thanks for watching.